Imagine cracking open a rock millions of years old and finding inside it an object crafted by human hands. It sounds like the plot of a sci-fi movie, but it actually happened. Throughout history, archaeologists and curious minds have stumbled upon artifacts that simply don't make sense, objects found in places where they should never be. These are enigmas that defy logic and make us wonder, do we really know our entire history? Today we're diving into discoveries that leave even scientists scratching their heads. We'll talk about tools lost in fossilized coal, maps that seem to depict Earth before the Ice Age, and even metallic objects appearing in soil layers millions of years old. The most intriguing part, no one can definitively explain how they got there. It's as if pieces from other eras or even other worlds were deliberately placed on our planet just to confuse us. Is it coincidence, elaborate hoaxes, or clues to something much bigger that we still don't understand? One thing is certain. Each find is an invitation to question the past and imagine the impossible. Today you'll learn about some of the most astonishing cases of these out-of-time objects. So get ready, because the list coming up will surprise you. And at the end I want to know, which of these mysteries do you think is real and which seems like fiction? Now picture this. It's the late 19th century in rural America. A group of miners is digging for coal, as they always did. Nothing unusual, until one of them finds something strange embedded in a fossilized block. It wasn't a plant or prehistoric animal fossil. It was a bronze bell. That's right, a perfectly formed bell with intricate details hidden inside material that, in theory, was millions of years old. The men were baffled. After all, how could a clearly human-made object be encased in such ancient coal? For context, that coal formed during a time when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. The bell, on the other hand, appeared to have been crafted with advanced metallurgical techniques. Some believed it was a hoax, something deliberately placed to deceive. Others swore it was proof that unknown civilizations existed long before recorded history. The most curious detail? The bell is still preserved as a relic, and later analyses suggested it was made of an unusual metal alloy, unlike those used in medieval or modern bells. It's like finding a smartphone in an Egyptian pyramid. It just doesn't make sense. But what seemed like an isolated case kept happening in various parts of the world. Now hold on to this one. In 1946, a Turkish cartographer named Piri Reis caught the world's attention. He possessed an ancient map, drawn in 1513, that showed geographical details impossible for its time. We're talking about the coastlines of South America, with stunning accuracy, and, most intriguingly, Antarctica without ice. How so? The icy continent was only officially discovered centuries later, let alone mapped, and yet we now know that beneath its ice lies solid land, a fact only revealed in the 20th century with radar technology. So how could a 16th century map depict that? Some researchers suggest Piri Reis compiled information from much older maps, perhaps inherited from lost civilizations. Others believe it's just coincidence or over-interpretation. But the question remains, how could someone from that era have knowledge of lands buried under kilometers of ice? It's like having a photo taken before the camera was even invented. Mysterious, unsettling, and of course fuel for all kinds of theories, from visits by advanced civilizations to extraterrestrial contact. But hold on, because the list of enigmatic objects and documents doesn't stop there. The next find was literally unearthed from the depths of the earth. Picture the scene. Workers in a California quarry in the 19th century, breaking rocks as part of their job. Suddenly, within a solid layer of rock, something completely unexpected appears, a small carved figure resembling a miniature statue. The catch? That rock was dated to millions of years old. The piece became known as the Nampa figurine. A delicate object with human-like features, found over 20 meters underground in a place where, theoretically, no human could have lived. It was as if someone had dropped a toy in the middle of prehistory. Scientists at the time were divided. Some insisted it was a hoax, a fabrication to attract attention. Others believed the piece was genuine, representing evidence of ancient cultures that vanished without a trace. To this day, there's no consensus on the case. Here's the most intriguing part. The figurine bore clear signs of human craftsmanship, making the explanation even harder. Was it just a modern artifact that accidentally fell into the excavation, or a true, out-of-time object, buried in depths that defy logic? It's in discoveries like these that the line between science and mystery starts to blur. After all, if such objects truly exist, our entire historical timeline would need to be reconsidered. And it doesn't end there. Because in another corner of the world, in the heart of Russia, scientists found something even stranger made of metal. Now, imagine exploring soil layers millions of years old and suddenly finding tiny metal pieces, but perfectly crafted. That's exactly what happened in the 1990s in Russia's Ural Mountains. Researchers collecting sediment samples noticed something odd mixed in with the soil. Tiny metallic spirals, some so small they could only be seen under a microscope. The detail that left everyone stunned. These spirals were in layers dated up to 300,000 years old. Even more astonishing, they were made of metal alloys like tungsten and molybdenum, materials only used in modern engineering in recent times. The inevitable question is, how did these objects end up there? If they were as ancient as the soil layers suggested, it would mean some form of advanced technology existed long before humanity officially appeared. Some scholars argue they were modern pieces that somehow contaminated the excavations. Others go further, claiming they could be remnants of a lost civilization, or even extraterrestrial probes. Picture this: digging through the earth and finding something that looks like part of high-precision equipment, but in the middle of prehistory. It's like discovering a computer chip in a cave inhabited by cavemen. And if you think that's impressive, wait until you hear about one of the most talked about mysteries in history, the famous Antikythera mechanism. In 1902, Greek divers were exploring a shipwreck near the island of Antikythera in the Aegean Sea. They expected to find common treasures, coins, vases, ancient statues. But what came to light was something no one could have imagined. Among the wreckage was a corroded bronze block, seemingly unrecognizable. Only decades later did they realize that object was, in fact, an incredibly advanced machine. Dubbed the Antikythera mechanism, it resembled a clock. But it was far more than that. With complex gears and astonishing precision, the device was used to calculate astronomical positions, predict eclipses, and even mark dates for events like the ancient Greek Olympic Games. Now think about this. We're talking about over 2,000 years ago, and someone was already capable of creating something comparable to European clockwork machines many centuries later. It's as if a computer had parachuted into antiquity. The strangest part is that to this day, we don't know exactly how the Greeks achieved this level of engineering. No other similar object from that era has been found. Was it an isolated knowledge? An inheritance from an unknown civilization? Or just a stroke of genius lost to time? This mechanism is considered by many to be the first computer in history, built long before its proper time. And if you're already impressed, hold on, because the next mystery involves an iron enigma buried in prehistoric soil. In 1885, workers at a foundry in Austria were breaking coal blocks when something unexpected emerged, a metallic object shaped like a cube with straight lines and defined angles. It became known as the Salzburg cube, or the Wolfsegg iron object. The detail that still intrigues today is that the coal in which the cube was embedded was millions of years old. How could a worked iron object, apparently crafted by human hands, be trapped in such ancient material? The cube measures about 7 centimeters, weighs just over half a kilogram, and bears marks resembling cuts or polishing, as if it were part of some gear or tool. Scientists at the time were puzzled. Some claimed it was just a natural iron pyrite formation that happened to take on that strange shape. But others argued it was impossible to ignore its manufactured appearance. Now imagine discovering something that looks like a modern machine part, but in the middle of the dinosaur age. It's as if someone disassembled a turbine and dropped a piece in the distant past. The cube is now housed in museums, but the mystery remains. Is it just a geological curiosity, or proof that our history still hides unknown chapters? And if that find seems hard to explain, the next one is even more astonishing. An ancient map showing flight routes that shouldn't exist. In the early 17th century, a Jesuit missionary named Matteo Ricci brought a map to China that became a true sensation. But the bigger surprise came from another document, discovered later, that seemed even more enigmatic. A map known as the King Goody map. This map, dated centuries ago, showed details of regions that simply shouldn't be there. Some representations resembled flight routes or airways, long before the invention of airplanes. Other scholars point out that it depicted continents with strangely precise outlines, at a time when cartography was still in its infancy. What's most impressive is that certain contours in the map could only be confirmed with modern technology, like satellite imagery. So the inevitable question arises, how could an ancient cartographer have access to this kind of knowledge? Some claim it was just a coincidence, with lines misinterpreted today as more sophisticated than they actually were. But others believe this type of map is a remnant of far older knowledge, passed down through generations and eventually lost to time. It's as if someone traveled to the future, copied modern information, and returned to hand it over to ancient cartographers. A historical spoiler that defies logic. And if you think that's already too curious, wait until you hear about the next mystery, a perfect sphere that, in theory, nature couldn't have made. In South Africa, miners working on excavations during the 20th century found something that seemed straight out of a modern laboratory. Small metallic spheres, some with grooves so regular they resembled machining marks. These pieces became known as the Klerksdorp spheres. The most astonishing part? They were found in rock layers up to 3 billion years old. 3 billion! That's long before any complex life existed on Earth, according to mainstream science. So how could such symmetrical, seemingly crafted objects exist in rocks that ancient? Some of the spheres range in size from 1 to 5 centimeters, and many have grooves that appear deliberately made, as if someone had actually shaped them. For some, they're merely natural formations, the result of geological processes still poorly understood. For others, they represent proof that perhaps we're not alone in the universe, or that advanced civilizations existed long before we imagine. So imagine holding in your hand something that might have been created before dinosaurs even appeared. It's like finding a modern toy buried on Mars. To this day, scientists haven't reached a definitive conclusion. The spheres remain on display in local museums, and the mystery endures. And to wrap up this list of impossible objects, let's talk about a find that blends mystery, metal, and plenty of debate. The famous Moscow screw. In the 1990s, a team of Russian geologists was excavating near Moscow when they found something that seemed mundane, small fragments of rock and minerals. But among them was something that made no sense at all, a metallic object shaped like a screw. The most intriguing detail, this screw was embedded in a rock dated to hundreds of millions of years old. Yes, a screw, exactly like the ones we use today to fasten machine parts, stuck in a piece of prehistoric stone. Analyses showed the object was about 3 centimeters long, with threads too regular to be a product of nature. Hypotheses quickly emerged. Was it just recent contamination? A hoax? Or perhaps evidence that unimaginable technologies existed on Earth long before humanity? The Moscow screw joined the list of so-called OOPArts, out-of-place artifacts. Each one challenges not only science, but our very notion of time and progress. And here's the question that lingers. Do we really know the full history of humanity? Or are there lost chapters buried in time, still waiting to be uncovered? One thing is certain, these mysteries spark the imagination and remind us that reality can be far stranger than any fiction. Now I want to know, which of these objects do you think is real and which seems like fiction? Let me know in the comments. Oh, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next mysteries.